if something looks magnificent, can you accept it even though you know that it's wreaking total havoc? In other words, is it moral to celebrate the beauty of something that can be so deadly? Like 9/11, when those towers collapsed and that white stuff started going down the canyons of steel in New York City, that was an incredibly enticing image. It was an image that, as you were looking at it, was like watching the atomic bomb going off in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. You know, it's such an incredible event. You look at it and say, oh my God, it's beautiful, and then you want to kill yourself for having said that because it's so terrible. There's 180,000 people that were dying at the same time. So so that's a very profound thing you question about your moral choice of how should you feel about something like that? What is it about its aesthetic that entices us? Yeah, what is it? So how can we reconcile that to the morality that we all have a responsibility for? So that was just one little thing about the fire that was interesting. And when I started doing those paintings, never in a million years could I have told you what I just told you now, because I didn't know that. So what I'm explaining to you now is a consequence of the exploration of those paintings. So I started off with doing 8 on a little panel, a couple a day. And then, 8 is my favorite number, so sorry, I'll do 8 of them. And then I said, maybe I'll do twice as much because they're interesting. Then I ended up with 16. Maybe do twice as many. And I ended up with 36. Maybe do twice as many. And I ended up with 72. And I did 426 of them. Oh. And, this big. And it got to the point where, when I went back to New York, my paintings are not that kind of stuff. My paintings are different than little fire things, the landscapes. So I jumped into what I was doing on a more ambitious scale. Not that it's better or worse by virtue of scale, just a question of a different interest. And because something could be the size of an ant's head and be infinitely more interesting than something the size of Texas. And let's not get political. So, after I would do a large painting, almost to take a break, the way you take a break, and you go out and take a walk, or you go downstairs and have a sandwich or something. Instead of that, I do a little painting. And so those things became kind of punctuation in a sentence. But punctuation is very important in a sentence because without punctuation, you lose a sense of what you're saying. So after a while, it got to the point where I got used to it, and when I finished, they're not finished by the way, because when I decided to stop, I still had a pile like this of underpainted little panels that I was going to do, and maybe someday I will do. It's just that I was bored after 426 of them. I was bored by the content of the damn fire. So I decided to do the Waters of Venice. And I did 64 paintings that were this big of Venice. And my experience, I love Venice for a lot of reasons. It's almost the opposite to the thing. And then when the Venetian Theater burned down, I could do Venice on fire. Which was really interesting. So that was cool. And I did a bunch of those. And, on and on. And, so, in doing those things, it taught me a number of things, and I like to, I'll just share a few of them with you. And I'm doing this to sort of, in a sincere hope that you'll try to do stuff like this. I mean, not fires in New Mexico, whatever the hell you want, shoppers or the village in the mall. In a little piece of thing this big, those horrid little canvas boards that warp with humidity, that's what they're done on. You have a vista. Actually, you have 3 things going. You have land, air, and a fire. Okay? The land has to be New Mexico. So you have to, and it has to be New Mexico, avoiding the triviality that most New Mexican landscapes unfortunately tend to deal with. because there's a certain aesthetic to New Mexico that is really stupendous, that tickles everybody's fancy, that has gotten trivialized artistically. Where now we're seeing something that is really beautiful, and we're almost rejecting it because you saw so many silly paintings of it that have the same colors, that have the same structure, that have the same thing, that it's like a little kid's song just sung with a little bit of a different tune. A million times, and it makes you want to run the opposite direction. So there's a triviality that I was trying to avoid by doing that. And it's very easy to do, quite frankly, because there's a profundity to the poetry of this land that is tangible, and you all understand what I'm talking about being here. But you have to go way under that. You got to go under that, and there's a lot under that has not been explored. What I try to do is I try to make the landscape become magical, and I try to make it become very vast, so that you enter into the thing and you just keep going. And as you keep going, you keep going, you keep going, you keep going. So, if something is this big, and you put a line in the middle, you've got this much to talk about 200 miles. That's what it is. So how are you going to do that? How are you going to talk about 200 miles? And then you're going to go out and you're going to say, well, okay, so it's land. What color is land? And then you go out there and you look and you think. And these things are not done by going out on landscape and painting, because they're done in New York. Okay, so you can look out the window and saw Cleobe. So you start to imagine. But the beauty of that is that you're opening up an avenue of learning that you need to learn. And whenever I came back to New Mexico, I would look and I remember what I was looking for. So you look at the color of the land, not copy it. You look at it, and then you internalize it. Later on, when you spit it out again, it's never exactly that. What you're spitting out is the memory of it. And there's a big difference, because it's not automatic, it's not a photograph, it's not a vision, it's not a copy. It goes through you. It comes out of that room that you started talking about. And so it becomes more magical, it becomes more personal, it becomes more subjective, it becomes more enticing, it becomes more interesting to the artist. And if the artist is sincere enough, it therefore becomes more interesting to a possible viewer. And so I learned that there is no limit, there is no color that is a color like the color of land, because land can be every color in the universe. And so can sky. A sky can be black, it can be blue, it can be yellow, it can be red, it can be whatever you wish it. You know? And so, yeah, it's the guts. And so, you take your hat off to Gauguin for that one. And so, what it does is that it allows you, it taught me that nature has no formulas. And the more audacious, the more contrary you become to what makes common sense, the more you are therefore able to make a profound statement about uncommon sense. The key, of course, is that it has to make sense. Commonality, is commonality, and uncommonalities are commonality, and it's not. But you can't do things for the sake of uncommonality. In other words, the minute you start painting, you say, "Well, I want to do something different." What the hell does that mean? Different than what? Than who and why? That's an artificial thing. That's like saying, "This detergent, you should buy this detergent because it's new."